All right, guys, back here with you on July 3rd here, middle of the day, with an update on Ethereum by you guys' request this morning. In the polling here, so now we'll get over here. This is essentially unchanged since we last looked at it here. So this is a 4-hour on Finex. No, so we'll get here in a second. One thing I thought was worth pointing out here as we look at this pivot here. So a question always, why do we stop here? So there's a few things to. Of course, this likely having some influence. If I get it right on there. All right, so the prior support comes the resistance. Additionally, right, we always want as much confluence as we can. So is there more there? Well, if I note that if I look here and I pull from this pivot here, this pivot, so it's not a dominant. This is obviously the dominant here, but an algorithm used this. So we can see this here. So what do we do? Right to the golden zone. Again, much like Bitcoin, although Bitcoin was a dominant, we hit the 65 and bounce, right? So that, of course, again, doesn't mean we can't get through it. And I think it's, if this count is going to be realized and we're going to go out and get this 5, then of course we're anticipating that this 65 gets broken, which would not surprise me at all because we don't have a dominant. But again, why do I use that? Because we can see an algorithm used it. So if I pull here from this pivot to this pivot, I'll take this one off so you can see it. All right, so from this pivot here down, they retrace to the 50, little stutter step here, and this, of course, it free falls, so something happening on a larger degree, but you can see the perfect algo play is right there, right? Third target. Well, second a little bounce, third a little bounce. So not the dominant, but in play. So it's worth using. So you don't want to just randomly grab pivots. You want to find something that you can identify that an algorithm used last. So this puts us right back here, boom, to the 65 to the tick. So with that established, we got to, that's always the question. So why do we stop here? Is it the structure? Is it the 65? Is it both? Now, if we think about where this could be going, if we grab the dominant to the pivot high to the pivot low, well, we ran into the 38. So if we're going to go up, if this count is going to be realized here, we don't know. All I can do is just kind of offer a roadmap here and a projection using that first algo target. If we're going to go up and get the 5 here, well, that would put us shy of the 50. And then, of course, the all the way is further back. Oh, shit. You can't do it on the 4. The all the way is further back still. Come here. I don't want log. I want that. Okay, so from our high to our low, unlike Bitcoin, we're just to the 38. Oh, pardon me. Let's get this off here. We're to the 23. So for this to continue to kick into a new trend, if we are just going to be finishing our first motive wave here, that's likely just the 1 going in. So the potential for Ethereum, pretty substantial for the big 3 still yet to come. So, right, so just as we did with Bitcoin, we're starting with a secondary pivot here, golden zone. If that breaks, I'd probably go back and check this one as well, since we know an algorithm used those 2 pivots. So I would be checking here as well. Now note where that algo target is right smack in the middle of that golden zone. But then we got to roll here, and then we go here, and then here and here. This is the big daddy here, which puts us all the way back up here 967-ish to get that to break. All right, so, well, not quite on there. Let's put it here. It's 960, let's call it, for the full break. All right, all of that established. Let's get back down here to this lower degree count. So off of the low here, and I still have this set of median lines here. Now note what happened here. So again, we went over this briefly here, but look how long this takes. So we get our corner here. Here's our corner. Nope. All right, so denied. Nope. Close. Nope. Doesn't get it. Finally, there's your 80%. Right? Takes a while. What was that? February 7th. We don't get there until June 26th. That's a long wait. Long wait looking for that 80%, but ultimately it does, of course, it gets there. So if this is the 3s and the count supports it, so from the dominant 1, 2, I've got a very, very nice impulse within this. So 1 looks like the 2 is here, truncated C wave, in for the 3, down for the 4, up for the 5. So it's pretty good symmetry, right? It's nothing out of the ordinary there. So quite probable that we've still just got our 3 here. Now, unless this starts to completely break down, which obviously, right, is always a possibility here that this is going to go deeper. And then we'd be looking at, well, maybe we've got the count, we've got to reconsider the count. So going to the absolute low from our pivot here, if we're going to come down this far, well, maybe you have to reconsider here. Although what's interesting here, as you can note, if we were to come down here to this 50, well, we can't eliminate the possibility it's still the 4. It still could be the 4. Right? We're not going to know until we see. Oh, shit, come here. We're not going to know until we see what follows. See what I'm saying? All right. So 1, 2, 3. Oh, 4 could go to the 50. No problem there. But it could also be, right? So we're not going to know until we really see this. It could also be that we've got 1, 2, and then we've got to kind of reconsider the count coming through here. There are a few tricky bits here. I'm not going to go through them all today. We've been through it a number of times in longer, more detailed analysis. But this, we could get a 1, 2, 3, 4. This could be the 5. Could be in over here, and then of course what's happening is all of this just gets moved, right? So this could be the 1, 2, 3, 4 up for the 5. Now we come down here, we hit the 50. Is it the 2 or the 4? Right, tricky. It's going to be hard to know really until we see, well, 1, how deep do we go? So of course our wave 1's way down here below the golden zone. So this is going to be just tricky. Now the count is, I mean, it's supportive all the way through here. Now this last little swing here, it gets a little skinny here, but there is an impulse to finish this here. So as of now, I still maintain the idea that the 3 is in here, and we're still seeking the 4. Now, one thing that will help keep this a little bit easier on us is if we stay at the 38 rather than pushing to the 50, where it could be either of these. All right, so we're not getting a lot of help there. Now, so looking into this, let's go down, we'll go to the 30-minute here and see if we can make sense of what's happening here in this correction. So we've got a contender for the A, nice little 3 into the B, so from the pivot, right, same thing every time, guys. So here we're going between the 50 and the 618. Here's the algo target down here, right? So do you see this? So so in our kill zone here, our short, well, that would be the short selling zone. Right now, I'm not one to short the majors, but so there was a trade here. But we can see software kicked in. Look where their target is. It's on literally 2 ticks off of the 38. So reasonable contender here if they're going to come down and get this. Now, that said, the move off of this has not been what you'd hope for to get clarity. So if I open that up a little bit more, so what do we have here? Now, I looked at a number of different ways we could consider counting this, and it's just there's nothing that's particularly. Best case, we've got an ugly diagonal, but look how deep the 4 is relative to the 2. So I don't love that, and we've broken, as I recall here. So from the swing high, we would want to see something technical. Oops. From the start of the 1 wave through the proposed pivot of the 3rd. Now we do get to the 50, which is not bad. So, but it's the 4 relative to the 2 has you hesitating to label that. But so if I see this come down here, so we have a nice little pocket here of algo targets on top of each other, and the 38 from the 2. So we've got a reasonable case down here for this to go in, if right. So always contingent on this happening here. So this would be maybe we could make a case for some sort of ugly expanding, but that's not what you'd hope to be drawing up to try and get clarity on a count. That's just very ugly. So, I suppose the alternate is that we'd be doing this, that this would be the 2. Let me get these out of the way here. Let me this is too small here. Let me get this up. Let's go to that. Let's go to, what am I not used here? Let's go to white so we can see it a little better. So the alternate here is that this is 1, 2. And that was 3, 4, and 5 all still yet to come, which pushes the 4 lower. So if that's going to go, so this would go down. So this potentially now we can use this. But if this is going to be 1, 2, we'd be looking for a 3 to go beyond this, just the first algo target. So let me try and put that together here. So if this is the 1, 2, so we've had A, B, and if this is a very ugly diagonal into a 1, this actually fits a little bit better to be thinking 1, 2, but now we'd have a target down here if we're going to get a true 3. here would be your target for the third at that degree. So we could tee it up this way. So additionally, from the length of the proposed one as an alternate to the 2, well, here's the 100 where we qualify as a third. Here's our 1618. So we get this zone down here. If this is going to sell off further, then we'd be looking for the, God damn it, trading view, 4, 5 here to come down something along these lines here. So we'd be, God damn it, that's annoying. We'd still be, yeah, let's see, this might be too high here. So if we get something along these lines, it would still, unfortunately, not give us any more certainty as to what we've got here, as to where we are in the count. So if I get that 5 coming down, now let me pull this off. Let's clear this up and see if we can make that make sense. So if we pull back, let's go to a 3 hour here. So what does that do for us? Well, if that's A, B, and we're going to have a good C coming down here, it's still a contender to be the 4. So this is not going to get any easier until we see. So it would certainly, well, you can think of it this way. So on the positive side, this is our buy zone. Whether the pivot is in here as the 1 and we're looking for the 2, or if this AB and we're going to get an impulse, or just how about this? We get a motive wave in the fifth. Pardon me, in the C of this coming down here to give us a 4 at this degree. Well, of course, we don't invalidate, but you'd prefer to see this hold between the 38 and the 50, which it still could, right? Nothing says that 5 has to go that low or the 3 has to go that low, because we had as long as we make the 100, we don't have to go to the 1618. So this coming down here, this would be either way, the 50 is an area of interest. How would we say it that way? And then we've got, there's some structure off to the left here that you might be paying attention to, so just eyeballing it here. So obviously that is one to be watching. This one to be watching here as we would be coming into the 50, and then I have a prior pivot there that's really not in play anymore. So this, look how that frames that up rather nicely. All right, so between the 50 and the 38, that's the zone that we're looking for. Now, potentially with this, well, I would do it this way. Since those are dominant, I would just do it this way. I would add the 2. So we'd be watching for the edge here. So I don't want to move this off yet unless I'm going to see something more dramatic come down here. Then I'd consider redrawing. But until I do, I would just hold here for the 2, still anticipating that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 going in here. We'd like to see it here going up for the 5. So just that. Whether this is 1, 2, or 3, 4, the risk reward here is going to be very attractive. So let's just use we'll use this little pivot here and stop under the 65 if you want to give it maximum room. You don't have to, but if we go up here, well, there's 4 to 1. If that's too much risk for you, well, you don't want to just randomly go, well, let's split the difference. All right, so then ideally, you want to trade something related to what you see in the market rather than, I'll just randomly choose a dollar figure. Then you're trading your wallet and not the market. So technically, you'd want to put the stop under the 65, because then we're starting to invalidate. Well, of course, we wouldn't invalidate until we broke the 1 high, but we're reducing the probability of new highs if we're all the way down here. Right now, not that it doesn't eliminate it, right? Because we've seen how many golden zones to target have we seen? No shortage of them, right? If you just watch the Bitcoin video, you know how pervasive this algo is. So you can't eliminate this, but we're just reducing the probability from an Elliott perspective that we're off to new highs. So ideally, this 50 is where we hold. For bulls, this is what you want to use. So really, something in here, maybe use, there's not much there. There really isn't a lot there to lean into. So next, you've just got an air pocket here because this went so fast. So you might have to wait until you get more here till you see if there's anything to work off of here. But if you're just starting up, I would suggest you start here and then reduce the size so you can accommodate that. Let's put it down here at the 50 on the assumption you get the 50. So there's go right to the target. There's over 4 to 1. So what I would do if this is me coming down here and I don't want to take that amount of risk, I would start small. So if you're going to buy here, knowing that there's a possibility that we could come down here and test the golden zone, well, then I would be looking to maybe ladder in down here, because the add that you'd put in here, look at the distance to the stop, right? So it's going to be much lower risk as you're pyramiding in, as you're laddering in as it comes down. Now that's that's not something to do lightly, because you're adding to a loser. So you want to be very disciplined on the stop. But this we want to see it hold the 50. That's the trade we're after. Right, so giving it this much room, I guess I got to stop that. Giving it this much room. If I started to see a little push off of this, even if it's just in the middle, if I start to see a little push, then I've got a pivot to pull the stop up to, where I can. The assumption being, I've got my pivot. Now I got something to work with. But if you're starting and it's coming down, you're going to have to give it that much room, so that's going to affect the amount of size that you put on there. Now, if it starts to pivot and it starts to go, well, then look for a little retrace as a place to add if you're so inclined. All right, that'll give you enough to work with. So until we see how this resolves, there's not a lot to do here, in my opinion, for what that's worth. I'd be waiting for slightly better pricing here rather than trying to jump and anticipate this as we come, looking down here. Are we really done? I don't know that I'd be trying to jump on that without getting better just clarity as to is this C done? Because that doesn't look like it's done. All right, guys, back to you in a minute.